My name is Mary Messerly, and I'm a co-president, and so welcome. Welcome to the March branch meeting. Of course, we gave you a little bit of a shout out in terms of the spring convention, so another plug for that. So it's very important that you certainly participate and engage, and so there's some information in the postgraduate. There's been an email blast. And then also members, as just another reminder, will be getting a notice to renew your membership. That will be coming very soon in an email, in the form of an email. And then our branch meeting is now in May, is going to be May 12th. It was originally scheduled for May 26th, and that's moved to May 12th. However, you don't need to remember that because we'll have plenty of information in upcoming e-blasts and the postgraduate. Well, I have to say that your leadership team has been very, very engaged and busy. And I want to certainly get on with the many announcements that we're having tonight prior to our featured presentation. But just as a reminder from a Zoom perspective, if you have questions of our speaker, you may go to the chat, and the chat feature is at the bottom of the screen. You just simply hover over it and click. And then the chat, the questions will go to everyone. So please be mindful that your questions will be going to everyone. And it would be important to preface to just simply say question, and then we will know that differentiates it from just simply some of the other conversations that people enjoy having during the meeting. So chat function, type in your question, prefacing question, and then Pat will be tracking all of our questions. And the conclusion of tonight's speaker, then we will be fielding all of your questions. So that's my Zoom 101 reminder. So now let's move forward. I'd like to tee up Linda Pellew, who is going to really be talking about a very, very important initiative stems from National on open membership. So Linda, I'm going to hand off to you.
Welcome everybody, as Mary said, our March meeting, glad you all could make it. And I am here to give just a little bit of an overview and a presentation about an upcoming important bylaw proposed change to AAUW national bylaws, an amendment that you are going to be asked to make a decision on. So that'll start April 7th through May 17th. All AAUW members will have an opportunity to vote on an important bylaw amendment that will eliminate the degree requirement for membership in AAUW. So what I'm going to try to do is to give you some of the rationale behind this decision at National. Now we have to always remember, yes, we are a group of women and an organization of women, but we are also a unique organization of women because of the things that we attempt to do at our level as far as education, but at the upper levels at National, it's research, how we try to advance equity, policy, advocacy, fellowships and grants are granted. National provides programs that directly support women, such as Nick Whistle, which promotes leadership, Start Smart, and Work Smart, that support women getting ready for the workplace, and those are already in the workplace. And of course, we have all of the branches around the country that do grassroots membership efforts. So AAUW is unique in that way. Today, the areas of focus for AAUW are education and training, economic security, so that we can ensure the livelihoods for women. Another important area of focus is leadership, closing the gender gap. And then governance and sustainability, ensure the strength and the relevance of AAUW well into the future. These areas of focus pertain to all women: education and training, economic security, leadership, and sustainability. Eliminating the degree requirement really is consistent with our mission, vision, and values. Our mission is to advance gender equity for women and girls through research, education, and advocacy. We do this very well on a local level, and it happens on a large scale at the national level. We have a vision of equity for all, and we value nonpartisan, fact-based, we value integrity, inclusion, and intersectionality. A college degree is not needed for any of these things that are part of our mission. They support all women. Another thing to consider is that since 1881, how our leadership has evolved and what our membership has evolved. And these are just points that have been highlighted. From only women to four-year degrees from universities who were meeting very specific criteria, our membership has changed. We now include women with associate degrees. From mostly women educators, which was the beginning in the 1880s, to now women in a variety of professions is our membership as you look at us. From only women to now, actually, we do include women and men. That's another change that has happened since 1881. At the beginning, it was young women with families. Now it's older women whose families have grown up. A lot of us. From young professionals to retired career women. We have quite this range within our branch. Times and perceptions have also changed. And this is kind of important for us to think about. AAUW is perceived as elitist because of that college degree requirement. We are perceived as non-diverse. We are perceived as not in tune with changes. We are perceived as not encouraging inclusion. In order to continue to provide support for those who are excluded or marginalized, we need to stop excluding and marginalizing ourselves. We need to live our mission, inclusive. Eliminating the degree requirement, this is what it could mean. We'll be less vulnerable to the charge of elitism. We'll be open to a more diverse group of members. We will have eliminated a barrier to participation by women we just want to help, as well as those who are just as smart but haven't had the opportunity to get a degree. We will also have more access to funding, because a lot of times at the national level, when grants are written, the lack of degree requirement prevents us from receiving those grants because it seems elitism and not diverse. So kind of it's working against us. This is just a little bit to look at. We're looking at diversity. We need to include members with all backgrounds. Equity for all. Our practices should align with our vision and goals. And we need alternate pathways to education. It's not always necessarily a four-year degree anymore. That's going to be the pathway to success. I'm asking you to please vote. The voting opens April 7th. Make your voice heard. And please watch your inbox beginning on about April 7th. We will keep you in tune with that. We're not going to take questions now for the sake of time. And if you want more information or if you have questions, we're going to have two opportunities for Zoom meetings. Tuesday, March 30th at 6:30 or Wednesday, April 7th at 1:30. We'll get that organized for you guys. And if you want to attend a Zoom meeting for these questions that I'm sure some of you have, that'll be your opportunity to ask those then. The bottom line is this. If the degree requirement is eliminated, membership in AAUW will be based on support for our mission, which is to advance equity for women and girls through education, advocacy, and research. Not whether someone individually has had the opportunity, time, or money to attend college. Please take time to consider this significant amendment and make your voice heard and vote beginning April 7th.
Thank you very much, Linda.
Okay, well, good.
Not only informative, but it really kind of lays out a nice case and a foundation. Someone put in the chat that this.
Can I ask one question, Mary? I need to know if Alice Brady got in, because I have to call her back.
Yes.
She's in?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm done.
Because I think it's an important initiative from a national perspective, and for all of us will certainly benefit as we look at expanding our membership. But somebody put in the chat that this conversation has been going on since 2008, and I know that it's come up for a vote before, but I think perhaps we've really seen the relevance and the importance of why we want to consider this. So we will have those Zoom listening sessions for those of you that want to participate. We'll have 2 of them. We'll be sending out reminders in an e-blast. So thank you very much, Linda. That was an excellent, excellent presentation and helpful information for all of us. So moving forward, Mary Mendham, as mentioned, she is spearheading our nominations efforts. And Mary, you want to give us a report out of where we're at?
Okay. The first thing that I am supposed to do is to read the slate of officers. The slate of officers for our AAUW West Suburban Branch for 2021 and 2022 are the following: Co-President, Mary Meserly; Secretary, Victoria Vistallo; Treasurer, Kathy Schultz; Vice President of Membership, Linda Palula. And we have 2 positions open. We need another co-president to work with Mary Meserly. And the other position that is open is archives. I was very pleased how many people did say they would come back. Plus, I have found some other new members for some of the open positions. So thank you to everyone who have stepped up and have taken positions, and you are appreciated. So I am hoping someone out there would love to be co-president. Please call me. And you also saw that in the e-blast. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mary. Mary, I thought you were going to mention how much fun I am to work with.
Oh, well, I was hoping you could help me out there.
Okay.
And we already know that because we see you every month.
If anybody's interested in that co-president, I would certainly invite you, reach out, have a conversation with me. I'd just be delighted to, to discuss a vision. And so just let me know. That'd be great. So, okay, our gyms update. Andrea, we'd like you to provide us with a gyms update.
Yeah, thank you so much. So GEMS is a STEM conference put on by UWM at Waukesha for middle school girls in 6th through 8th grade. And it stands for GEMS, Engineering, Math, and Science. And our chapter supports this conference by providing volunteers for the day. And also we would like to sponsor up to 10 girls to attend the conference. So the conference is usually in April or May, but because of COVID, they have pushed it to April 21st, which is a Saturday. So I am reaching out for volunteers, and usually we need people from 7:30 in the morning till around 3:30. Basically, we help the girls get checked in, and then there's an opening speaker. This year, it's going to be Tanzania Swell, who is an electrical engineer and an instructor at MSOE. And then we typically show the girls to each of their sessions. They go to 4 to 5 45-minute sessions. And some of the examples of sessions this year are engineering, cybersecurity, ocean conservation, veterinary medicine, and meditation. And then lunch is provided. And then we're typically done around 3:30. So this year we are working with Mary Winter, who is the chair for Pearls, because our goal is to be able to try to send up to 10 Pearls girls to this conference. So I'm working with Mary and Pearls to try to figure out the logistics of that. And I have written a new article for the postgraduate for April, so you will see that. And please email me, andreabequest@yahoo.com, if you're interested in being a volunteer. We typically look for 6 to 8 volunteers. I already have 2, Paige Horker and Marge Wilms, but we would love you to attend. So just email me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrea. I had the opportunity to attend a Jim's event, and it's just remarkable. It's outstanding to see these young women and their enthusiasm, and they're so smart. They're so terribly, terribly smart. You may also put in the chat feature if you're interested in helping out and if you want to contact Andrea. So thank you very much, Andrea. Jill Meyer, I'm going to ask you to talk and update about what's going on with shares. We have perhaps some different initiatives and some creative ways in order to expand that shares program. So Jill, could you please tell us about that?
Most certainly. Carol, can you find me okay?
I'm looking. I'm not seeing you. Oh, I found you.
To be my name. Yep. Excellent. Okay. So shares has been really exciting this year because we've really been able to explore some new opportunities as it relates to shares. So those of you that may be new to the group or just need a little reminder, shares is the umbrella kind of program that we collect donations throughout the year that fund our local scholarships for our 5 colleges and universities in the area. So typically we're at meetings and able to collect that, but some of the creativity that we've put in, you saw in the last postgraduate, our first initiative that we're kicking off with shares, and that's the opportunity to commit to a donation of $100 or more on an annual basis. So this not only is an exciting time to kind of look more towards the future of us as an organization, be able to plan a little bit more budget-wise of shared donations coming in. And, we know we have a lot of long-standing members, and this is just a great opportunity to kind of honor those that want to give year after year at a level of $100 or more. So check out the postgraduate for more information. That was in the March postgraduate. And then you will definitely want to keep an eye on the April postgraduate announcing our next opportunity. And this is, we're calling it, we don't have an official name, but it's our certificate opportunity. So what this is say you have an upcoming, you have a friend, a colleague, a fellow AAUW member. Say it's Mary's birthday next month, and I just don't know what to get Mary for her birthday. Well, we as an organization are offering an opportunity where you can put a donation in her name, and Mary will get a wonderful certificate for her birthday, letting her know that a donation was made in her name in honor of her birthday. Now, this is not specific to birthdays. We have a number of holidays, probably about 1 a month, and we want to be able to have this opportunity for any of these. So with upcoming Mother's Day, what a great opportunity if you want to either honor your mother or a daughter and just don't know what to get her this year. We're really excited to really launch this in May with Mother's Day. So again, watch the postgraduate for more information or contact Mary Meserly for any questions or more information at this time.
Thank you so much, Jill. Shares is just such the backbone of our organization to fund scholarships for young women. So this is a very important initiative, and it's very exciting that it's been expanded to an annual pledge program in addition to the certificate program. So you'll be hearing more about both of those initiatives in the coming months. So next on the agenda, we have the Reads Committee report, and some punch bowl invitations are going to be coming out. Eileen, you want to tell us what those punch bowl invitations are going to be all about?
Sure.
Thank you.
I don't have a video, But this is information that's not going to be included in the April postgraduate. So you might want to make a note. West Suburban Milwaukee Reads is culminating the 2020-21 year with 2 opportunities designed to enhance our reading of Small Great Things by Jodi Picoult. And in case you somehow missed it, this is the book. Oh, that's backwards, so that's not too good. But we've been reading it all year and discussing this book that's related to social issues and white supremacies, as well as many other racial issues. Additional groups are being planned for those who may not belong to the AAUW book groups and anyone who might want to discuss the book further. So these will be led by book group leaders, and discussion dates are anticipated to be in late March or early April, depending on the interest. And if you have read Small Great Things and are interested in participating in a Zoom group with no more than 12 people, please contact Kristen Lancer at 262-385-6501. And that all those names and addresses are in your book, your AAUW book, by March 18th. A Punch Bowl e-invitation will be sent to all members about March 11th. The other item that we wanted to tell you about is information that will be included in the April postgraduate and membership announcement, but I just want to give you a heads up today. As we culminate this year-long reading of Small Great Things by Jodi Picoult, the Out and About Inside group, in collaboration with West Milwaukee Reads, will be presenting an interview of Isabel Wilkinson, author of Cast, The Origins of Our Discontents, published by Random House in 2020, with John Meacham on April 28th. The time is going to be determined. Members will not need to have read either book, but are asked to come with an interest in the history of racism and its impact on our lives and communities. After viewing the pre-recorded interview, attendees will have an opportunity to discuss this interview, racism, and how we have come to this time in our history. Watch for an April 5th Punch Bowl e-invitation to the viewing and discussion. Registration deadline is April 25th. Contact Carol McFarland at 262-227-0823 or her email at Gmail, which is again in your blue book. She'll be happy to answer any questions and or take your registration. So that's basically what we'd like you to know about where we are with Reads.
Thank you very much, Eileen. You know, it is absolutely remarkable, the diversity of activities that we continue to have. Both of those events sound very, very interesting. And Eileen, I look forward to seeing you on the golf range one of these days. Very soon.
Maybe.
So, okay, we have one more announcement before we get to our featured presentation. And I'd like to ask Carol Damian to talk about our upcoming May 22nd walk run, and also to tell us a little bit about some news about the author's tea. Carol?
Okay, so after spending all these months inside, we're offering you an opportunity to come out, ask your friends and family to join you for a walk in the park at Foxbrook Park off of Barker and Capitol Road on May 22nd. So besides a walk, we'll have t-shirts and a lunch and planning some fun activities for the day. So there will be an article in the postgraduate, and the walk will be a COVID-friendly walk. And if anybody is interested in underwriting some of our expenses for the day, or you know a business or a health provider who might be interested in some advertising on our t-shirts and things, I'd really like to hear from you. And also the tea, we're going to go ahead and plan it. We haven't heard anything from the library that it'll be canceled, but that's planned at the New Berlin Library on October 16th. And both of these activities need volunteers in order to make them successful. So please, consider helping. And this would be a good thing for new members to get involved into. So save those dates, May 22nd for the walk and October 16th for the tea.
Thank you very much, Carol.
Thanks.
Those are going to be very, 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 very exciting events that we'll have something to look forward to. So before I introduce Pat, that will be introducing our speaker, I wanted to take the opportunity to talk about AAUW's public policy that aligns with tonight's speaker. So the priority is promoting the economic, social, and physical well-being of all persons. Essential to that well-being are economy that provides an equitable employment opportunities, reduction of poverty, a living wage, quality, affordable dependent care, paid family leave, and medical leave, safe, livable, and affordable housing, quality, affordable, and accessible health care for all. I can't believe I said that in one breath. So Pat is going to introduce tonight's speaker. She will also be tracking the questions in our chat feature. And just as a reminder, if you have questions, please preface question and then type in the question, and we will be happy to answer as many of our questions at the conclusion of tonight's presentation. Pat?
Hi there. I have the great privilege of introducing our speaker tonight, Ms. Sara Finger. And she is coming to us from Madison, Wisconsin this evening. And she is also an AAUW member there. Sara is the founder and executive director of the Wisconsin Alliance for Women's Health.
Did you get Sarah's?
And the title of her talk tonight is Policy with Us, Not to Us. So her organization helps unite, coordinate, and amplify the voices of women's health supporters. So with that, I'd like to introduce Ms. Sara Finger.
Thank you. Pat, how are you feeling? How's your mouth?
It is rather sore and a little swollen.
Root canal?
Yeah.
Oh, lucky you. All right, you're on the mend. Sorry, Pat and I had a little pre-conversation, so I had to check in on Pat. Hello and good evening. I am so excited to be with you, even if it's virtually. I think it's been a couple of years since I've been in person to a chapter meeting, but this is great turnout. This is so exciting. And just for a second, can we, I know you had a whole preface about talking about being more inclusionary, but I'm seeing a lot of women on this Zoom. And can we just for a second give ourselves the hugest self-hug and recognize what we as women have gone through over this last year? I'm now regulated to my bedroom right now, trying to stay away from my 8-year-old and 11-year-old who very much want to leech on and spend some mom time. But I am so excited to get a little break for myself and a little time with all of you tonight to talk about what is my first baby, and that's the Wisconsin Alliance for Women's Health. I can't see all of you because there's so many of you on this call, which is just absolutely amazing. But if you know the little thing with the reactions at the very bottom of the screen with a little emoji, if you've heard me talk before, will you just hit the raise hand button in the reactions and let me know? Again, I give a lot of spiels and many of you might be just repeat. Okay, so only a couple of you. That's great. I mean, I love that there's some of you I've already talked to before. And I think it's been a little while. Maybe it was the state conference last year. I don't even know. Everything seems like it was years and eons ago, right? Since before COVID. But either way, I am so excited to connect with each and every one of you. I have put our website in the chat, and throughout the night, I decided to opt out against PowerPoints. I love being able to see more of you instead of a screen share. And so I'm not going to do a PowerPoint tonight, but I will here and there plug some links and helpful information into the chat. And I'm always happy to follow up with Pat and send follow-up information. Pat asked me to tell you a little bit about myself. I am a working mom who founded an organization back in 2004, and somehow 17 years later, we are still here. Our vision continues to be that every single woman in the state of Wisconsin, at every age and every stage of life, able to reach her optimal health, safety, and economic security. So it kind of sounds like we're in sync, right? I think AAUW, that's why I'm a member nationally. And very much, you know, we believe in the fact that when it comes to women's well-being, it's not just about our physical health, it's our mental health, it's our financial health. And so our organization is all about helping to inform the policymaking process to impact hopefully positive policies that help improve our health, safety, and economic security. And how we function on a day-to-day basis as a small, scrappy, plucky nonprofit that's been around for 17 years is that our honor in life is to be able to inform, involve, and inspire individuals like yourselves to be effective advocates, to have stepped into a space where I can create and set a table with the Wisconsin Alliance for Women's Health, where I can use my background and my education to really help stoke that kind of civic engagement that we're all being called to do right now. But I think we're still all, you know, struggling with the sliminess of it or the intimidation of it or how to navigate it all. And especially when all the oxygen gets sucked out of the room with national, federal legislation and elections, there is just so much being done at the state level that we have not even begun to crack the surface of how, if those of us make the determination right here, right now, that policy is going to happen with us instead of to us, that we're going to be someplace in that policy making kitchen versus on the menu, that we have incredible opportunities to start informing state legislative initiatives and to hold those people accountable when they're not helping advance women's health, safety, and economic security. And I don't think it's lost on any of you that we're living in some dark times. I don't know how many of you have caught on to the Stranger Things Netflix series, but I always talk about how we're living in the upside down. Like, it just doesn't make sense, you know, the things that we're finding to be partisan these days. And so I get really excited about this opportunity to almost be contagious in the non-COVID way, right? To hopefully like replicate the energy and the comfort and the confidence and the responsibility that me and others have to, again, make sure that we have at some level some engagement with the state policymaking process, which again is where the greatest damage has been done to women's health, safety, and economic security over the last decade. So again, we're small, we're plucky. We have a lot of information on our website. I know that you've already had a meeting tonight, everyone. I don't know how zoomed out everybody is. But I told Pat that I want to be available to all of you to answer questions and go where you'd like me to go tonight. I'll just lay the groundwork and say that I always talk about Wisconsin having 3 seasons when it comes to policy and advocacy. There's the election season, which we finally overcame after last fall. We're now currently in the state in a budget session season, where every 2 years the governor introduces his state budget proposal, and for the next few months it's all about the debate about what's going to eventually be in our state budget that has to be passed this summer. And then generally the rule of thumb is you honor the budget process, and then come the fall it really goes into a high-geared legislative season, and that goes until spring next year when everybody switches back over to election season and starts campaigning for the midterms next year. And so our organization is very much putting our finger on the pulse of the governor's budget, and we've done an initial assessment of what we're celebrating in his budget. There's a lot of really great things, and I'm going to put a link to that blog post in the chat for you. So we are very much focused on making sure that women's voices are heard in the budget debate, and that we continue to let people know how to make sense of a 700-page document, and let people know what's in it and what we should be rallying around. And there's so much more aside from the blog I just sent you. So if there's any other areas within the state budget or other issues you care about, I'm happy to connect you to our partner organizations that are also doing the same kind of translation of what the budget means in those areas. But at the same time, right now we're seeing an onslaught of state legislative bills be introduced that are really not good for our health, safety, and economic security. A lot of bills that are seeking to continue to roll back reproductive rights in the state of Wisconsin. We have a slew of bills that is out of a national playbook to really roll back democracy and limit voting opportunities after a record turnout in 2020. And so, like I said, I'm happy to go wherever you want to go tonight to talk about legislation, to talk about how to communicate with legislators, to talk about the state budget. There's so much going on right now, and I may not have all the answers, but I really call myself an advocacy doula, and I'm here to help you navigate through the process.
Okay, so we would like some questions coming into the chat. Thank you very much for that introduction. And I'll kind of start things off as Pat is going to be fielding some of the other questions coming into the chat. How does Wisconsin stack up with other Midwest states? How are we from a women's health perspective?
Awful. It's really fascinating, doing this for 17 years. When I started the organization in 2004, we weren't this extreme state, although things were starting to get bad, and it's not like we've always been perfect, right? But a few years ago, our organization got asked to sit on a panel at the Center for Reproductive Rights a conference they were having in DC, and they were placing us on a panel with Texas. So we have arrived as being finally recognized as one of the most hostile states when it comes to women's reproductive health care, when you're partnered with Texas to give a talk about reproductive rights restrictions in your state. And I don't mean to make light of that, but I think it's so important how to make sure others know. Again, these are the kind of contagious things I want you to go out and echo after tonight's conversation is, did you know that Wisconsin's one of the most hostile states when it comes to women's reproductive health care and justice? That we right now have a law on the books from 1849. So before penicillin, before pregnancy tests, when it was an all-male white legislature, right? They passed a law criminalizing abortion. So we are one of those states, and people just don't appreciate this, that we are one of those states that if Roe versus Wade falls nationally with the Supreme Court, we automatically trigger a criminal abortion ban in Wisconsin from 1849. So you're asking about the Midwest. I often look enviously, not because I'm a Packer fan, or jealously across the borders. I grew up in Milwaukee, so the Bears tension and the Vikings tension, but I do look across the border and I see amazing investments and priorities being made in positive, proactive, evidence-based policies. And what we have in Wisconsin, and I can go into why I think we're at the place we're at, but we have an impossible situation right now where with gerrymandering and the 2010 midterm elections, we haven't seen anything good even get a hearing. And I put a link in the chat about how we did a post-mortem of the last legislative session and how it's just so frustrating that things like not shackling pregnant women and laboring women in prisons wasn't even a bill that could get a hearing and a conversation and a vote last year. So I'm very, I mean, every state has their issues, Michigan and lead and the water and Flint and social justice. We all are struggling right now, but I really want to acknowledge that we are the worst in the nation when it comes to so many different factors. And one being the maternal child health disparities between Black moms and babies. So this is not something that we share with our neighboring states. Sorry, Pat, is it okay if I read the questions?
Pat, you'll have to unmute yourself, Pat. There you go.
Okay.
I can save your mouth, Pat. I'm seeing some of the questions if you want.
Okay. Thanks.
I think the first question was how much the COVID shutdown affected the attempts to shape public policy with women's issues. I'm gonna say there's two sides to this coin. You know, there's something I always talk about. I always try and see the positive in the half glass full. So often I talk about how there's a gift in everything, but sometimes it's wrapped in poo. And I would say the other word if my kids weren't nearby. And so here's what happened during COVID, right? There was a really harsh spotlight shed on how women and women of color were disproportionately impacted already by the healthcare system and economics and education. And the COVID pandemic really shed light on those disparities and how, again, how important it is to invest in women's health, safety, and economic security, because we are the ones, you know, making sure that there's masks in our household and making sure there's vaccination appointments and testing appointments and sanitizing. And not to say that we don't have supportive partners, but we really, I think it's really exposed that that extra added burden that a lot of us are carrying outside of a pandemic, let alone inside a pandemic. But the other thing that happened with COVID is that we found the attention and the funding from funders really be focused on the emergency. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, there have been a lot of emergencies created out of the pandemic, whether it's housing shortages, food shortages, you know, unemployment, not having paid sick time and paid family medical leave. So as an advocacy organization, even before COVID, I would say we struggle to attract the kind of funders and foundations to invest in that upstream work. When, you know, I don't know if it's satisfying or people are just called, right? They want to support the clinic. They want to support a financial literacy seminar. You want to support a community garden. You want to support a food bank, a shelter. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I do think COVID did create a sense of urgency when people were putting their energy for volunteering or funding into, it was a lot on how to try and tackle, you know, like putting a finger in the dam and trying to help people who are really suffering. But I also think it's also, other side of the coin is that it's exposing the need to work upstream so that if we ever face another pandemic, that we have systems in place like paid family medical leave and Medicaid expansion where you don't have to be tied to your employer's health insurance, all sorts of different things that we're already, again, preventing some of these consequences we've seen with COVID. Hopefully, Pat, I answered that question. Kirsten has a question. I hope I said Kirsten right. What is the biggest hurdle women of color face in terms of health issues? We have, this is such a great question. We have a health system that doesn't look anything like women of color. I started my career at the State Medical Society. I worked with physicians and medical students there. There's not diversity in healthcare. And we have a long history in our country of oppression and discrimination and bias towards patients of color. And you're seeing it reflect in the vaccine conversation now, where there is a major mistrust of women of color in the healthcare system. I'll give an example where in Waukesha, my sister gave birth to my nephew a couple of years ago. And there's an option where if after you give birth, you can have an IUD put in right away if you're not planning on having another kid right away. And my sister was really excited about that. She's like, oh, I don't need to come back in. I'm already open, you know, go ahead and help me prevent the next pregnancy and insert an IUD. And the nurses and the doctors at the healthcare system said that they do in fact offer postpartum IUD insertion. And when the doctor came in, it was a white male doctor, and he came in and I was kind of my sister's coach. And I just looked at him and I said, oh, by the way, Carrie would like this. And he looks at her and says, you're not the ones we worry about. There are major judgmental decisions being made every single day in Wisconsin and across this country of who should and should not reproduce, of who should and should not be taken seriously when it comes to pain threshold, who should or should not be offered accommodations around, you know, preventing COVID exposure. So right now, I just think it is a health system that is not evolving to call out their own implicit bias, to do implicit bias training for their health professionals, and not to diversify so that if you have more, there's a push to have more Black women breastfeeding. Well, we're not going to have more breastfeeding among Black women until the lactation consultants look like the women they're trying to serve, because there is just such a distrust. This is why I don't have enough time. Like, Pat, you're gonna have to cut me off because I could go on and on about so many different such great questions. I'm admitting someone to the room because it popped up on my screen, so I hope that's okay. Someone's joining. I hope it's not a crasher. Paige has a question. Can you recommend a good source or sources to learn about individuals running in small local elections? I love this. Oh, these are such great questions. Are you interested in running yourself, or you want to learn about the individuals who are running, Paige? Oh, maybe I'm putting Paige on pressure here.
The response is learn about those running.
Learn about those running. So here's what I highly, highly, highly recommend is that everybody is previewing their ballots at myvote.wi.gov. So there are really great groups like Emerge, who are all about candidate development and encouraging women to run at all different levels. And I love that you're thinking locally. I'll just tell you right now, in the state legislature, only 1/3 of our state legislators identify as women. That's not okay. Only 11% of our state legislature identifies as people of color. We do not have a representative government right now. And so whether it's the state legislators or whether it's, down ballot, like right now, we're all getting ready to vote in some of these local elections. If you go to myvote.wi.gov, not only can you, request your absentee ballot and plan to vote early, but you can preview those people who don't get a lot of attention because they're on the local level. And then I just highly encourage you to follow them on social media and learn more about them. Ask them questions. If we have less than 7% of people in the state knowing who their state legislators are, imagine how many people running for city council, county board, school council, how few people interact with them. And so I'm happy to connect you with other resources, but that's a great way to identify who locally is vying to run for you. And because it's such a local small and they do not get tapped into very often, sometimes the most meaningful conversations I have is with someone running for city council in Fitchburg, Wisconsin, because they're coming to your door and they have the time and we can really talk about, like the water drainage or safety of our kids or whatever it is. The accessibility is a lot easier there. I think the next question from Mary is, what has been your greatest professional accomplishment? Not losing my mind the last 12 months. Honestly, I think the fact that we're still here 17 years later, I am incredibly proud of the resources and the tools that we've made available to help people overcome the barriers that have prevented them from being in that policymaking kitchen. And I think there's just so much intimidation and people think, well, no, if I'm going to be in that policymaking kitchen, I need to be a sous chef. And the truth is, you don't need to be an expert. I am not good at cooking, and my kids will tell you that. That's why we ordered in tonight to support local restaurants. But there's a room for all of us to either fold the napkins or to pour the wine or to, dice the onions. It is just so incredibly important that, and that's what, again, like I can look at bills that have been passed, which are so far and so few and far between, or I can look as a whole. To me, my greatest honor is having these conversations. And if you know the parable of the choir, where if you have a choir singing, right, and there's a group of you, one person can take a step out and take a breath and, recover and join back into that long chord, right? This is about building a parable of the choir for women's health advocacy. And that is my greatest honor. I will say the greatest bill policy accomplishment in my career was in 2008, when after 6 years, we were able to pass compassionate care for rape victims in Wisconsin that just said, that just said that if a sexual assault victim presents at a Wisconsin emergency room, that it is up to that hospital to inform that individual about the option to prevent a pregnancy from her attacker using emergency contraception and being dispensed emergency contraception if that patient requests it. So unbelievably, I honestly cannot tell you that there hasn't been a win like that since 2008. This is one of those things that I'm telling you to stay in that kitchen, but you know, the kitchen, that's running 24/7 and for decades at a time. And this is a marathon, and we always say we don't eat the fruit the day you plant the seeds. Well, I also say, you know, you don't drink the bourbon, you know, the first day you're bottling it. So when it comes to advocacy and policy, it is a long game. I just put my website in. I love the question though. I read from Mary C. Question, what is Sara? I think it's like an existential question. That's a great question. What is a Sara? I apparently am a Sara. There is a question, how do you see in the landscape coming months with Biden? Oh, okay. Love this question too. So, you know, I hadn't let myself imagine an alternative reality federally. And it's been such a toxic environment here in the state. I do think that legislatively, there is going to be a really tough row to hoe. Even with, you know, the slight majority in the Senate. But I'm happy to follow up with you. And I know I have things on my social media page right now, but there are so many incredible opportunities being identified for executively, administratively, and budgetarily what the Biden administration can do outside of the legislature, which is kind of in gridlock, just like in Wisconsin. And so we too did the same thing when Evers was elected, knowing that we had an unfriendly legislative majority. We created an executive blueprint for Governor Evers to say, hey, if it's going to be hitting our heads against the wall with state legislators, what can you do, Governor Evers, executively, budgetarily, and administratively? So I mean, things like rolling back the gag rule that says if you get family planning funds, that you can actually refer to all options counseling for patients. They just repealed the public charge rule that basically penalized undocumented individuals from getting benefits like healthcare and nutrition. You know, you're seeing some voting rights protections being put in. There's new premium and assistance for the Affordable Care Act. I'm really excited. They're not big, sexy bills. And the American Rescue Plan that just got passed today, there's some really great stuff in there related to women's health, well-being, and economic security. And I think I have an article that I can share with you too, but you know, it may not look traditionally like success, but there's a lot of excitement there. And I can go, like I said, into where our runway is in the state, which isn't as rosy right now, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Another question. What is your organization related to the Wisconsin state government in general? So in terms of the Evers administration, we have an incredible relationship with Governor Evers. We had a governor before that was, Governor Walker was not amenable to the kind of positive, proactive, evidence-based policies that we were hoping our state legislature would have embraced. You know, for the first time, we have a governor recognizing racism as a public health issue, recognizing the role of women as caregivers, recognizing that we have an infant and maternal mortality issue in the state and is putting money, a proposal of the Healthy Women, Healthy Babies initiative. So I'm very, very fortunate that a lot of people that I knew prior to Governor Evers being elected now work inside that office. And they're really good about reaching out and saying, hey, Sara, what's your take on this? And what are you hearing? So we have a very positive relationship with the administration, and we're trying to, again, get as creative as possible of what does a win look like when you really can't pass policy in the state legislature right now. Pat, I'm at 8:04. How much time do I have? Oh, she muted. I'm trying to read lips. I'm really trying to get good at that.
No, you're still muted, Pat. You need to unmute yourself. Yep, still muted.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
There you go. Now you're unmuted.
Probably have like 10 more minutes or so.
Thank
I
you,
think so,
Becca.
about 10.
Okay, thank you so much. Another question: do you think the key to women's health is funding or education? Of course, both. The key to women's health is funding or education. Oh my gosh, that is another really great question. I mean, we are severely underfunded when it comes to public health funding and women's health programming funding, and organizational funding for organizations like ours. I think it's like the chicken and the egg. I think the education, I want to make sure I have the question right, but are we talking about like women's health education, like letting people know about cervical cancer screenings or about COVID? Is that the kind of education you're talking about?
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
Just general education, just self-awareness versus funding.
You know, funding is so key, but I personally start with the empowerment of information, right? So if you have the information and then you have the opportunities to engage and fight for that funding, I think the education side of it is the really key component to building that parable of the choir, right? So there's more of us who are paying attention and insisting there's funding for women's health. Someone's asking about my Instagram. I think it's Healthy Women Wisconsin, WI. And I appreciate that, Andrea. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. It's just not, people don't follow us on Twitter very much, but we have a really great Instagram and Facebook following. And I do think that either signing up to get our email alerts for some of you who are already on that, we do a 5 things to know at the beginning of every month to help, you know, really respect your time and help concentrate your attention on what's really happening in the moment. And then social media, I've been posting a bunch of stuff today about the American Rescue Plan, about what Biden has done, again, administratively, executively. And so there's a lot there at Facebook. And I think it's, I'm gonna pull it real quick. It's support, yeah, I'll put this in the chat real quick. There's our Facebook feed. Instagram, okay, what else am I missing? And I appreciate, this is great. The questions in the chat are working out really well. I miss hearing from all of you. Could you give more examples of oppressive or discriminatory practices women of color face today when it comes to medical care and access? I think, again, the examples I'm giving are, there has just been a mindset in the medical community that I know better than you, women of color. So whether it's about C-sections, whether it's about prenatal care, whether it's about giving birth at home, whether it's about, again, the pain, you've seen stories. Serena Williams is one of those people where the pain of Black women are not taken as seriously. And I do think that there's just major assumptions made in those moments without centering the voice and the experiences of the patient. Right now, you'll all love this because it's not enough that I run this organization. I also am the executive director of the Dane County Medical Society. And the Dane County Medical Society has collected themselves and brought in some consultants to talk about racism as a public health crisis in Wisconsin. And they're really starting to learn, again, what they're taught in terms of the practice of medicine is to dictate, right? And not to center the voices. And because of the system and the way it limits our time with patients, we're trying to basically humanize and recognize this history of oppression in medicine and start, again, respecting and trusting Black women. Again, I could give a whole talk on that. So I love that question, Natalie. And again, there's so many great resources. There's also a great, I think it's important to note that there's some great policy being put together to address not just racism in healthcare, but in tackling the tremendous maternal child health disparities that exist among Black moms. And so like the Momnibus Act nationally is a really powerful recipe of legislative initiatives that have the power to ultimately disrupt these disparities and to build more trust and get better health outcomes for different communities who are marginalized. what are some resources for women who are underinsured for health concerns? You know, there's one of my professional accomplishments. I try and mention the fact that I was recognized by the White House for my work on the Affordable Care Act. And everyone's like, which White House? I'm like, of course, it was the Obama White House. I think, again, knowledge is power. And I think leaning on organizations like ours or others, like Center for Patient Partnerships in Madison or ABC for Health, there are organizations that can serve as healthcare doulas that can help you navigate the insurance and the enrollment and the pricing of things. And I'm part of the Raising Women's Voices Collaborative. And they do a really great job putting together a guide to kind of help you navigate. Hold on one second, I'm trying to get back to the homepage of this. I'm going to put this link in the chat too. And I hope someone can save the chat and follow up. But bottom line, just don't get swallowed up and feel so overwhelmed that you give up on navigating, and know that there are programs out there, and we continue to fight to make sure those programs are funded, that eligibility is strong. Right now, we're fighting to make sure that anybody who gives birth, right now in Wisconsin, you only get 60 days worth of Medicaid coverage after you give birth. And the best practice, and all the experts say, you need at least 1 full year's worth of coverage after giving birth to truly, you know, help the new mom and the baby. And so I think helping, you know, like to recognize where we have shortcomings, where we could improve current programs and then help more people be insured and get access to affordable health care. What is your personal medical opinion of doulas? Oh gosh, I'm supposed to be cut off here and you're like opening up so many great conversations. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the role of doulas, but I put that as a caveat. You know, a lot of people think of doulas as luxury, right? As spa, like, you know, you have to be rich and wealthy to have a doula there with you. But we're seeing so much evidence right now showing how community-based doulas, a lot of doulas of color on the front lines, are saving lives, considering the maternal and mortality morbidity we're facing in this country. So part of the problem is that we want to have government come in and support the role of doulas by reimbursing them and making sure that you can make a living being this lifesaver birth worker. But there's a lot of states that in doing and trying to help doulas have over-regulated, over-certified the profession and have really prevented a lot of women of color from being a full-time doula and doing this work, which is so impactful for their community. Seriously, when do I get to come back for a follow-up conversation?
Sara, we also, there was a question raised, are there specific issues Indigenous women face in Wisconsin in terms of healthcare? I think that's one of the final questions that we have for tonight.
Oh, again, marginalized communities across the board are facing very unique challenges. I would say the reckoning we're coming in about, you know, the Native people and the original population, I think that we're having a reckoning with it. And as we do have that reckoning, we are recognizing the limitations that are available in a lot of reservation health centers. And the stigma of coming forward with mental health. This is what I'm hearing in terms of disparities are often overlooked, but are also severe in the Indigenous population. And because again, we've really abandoned the reservations and the tribes, I really think that they're falling through cracks that no one's really noticing, if that makes sense. And again, I have tons of different resources I could send your way. I want to put, before I run out of time, my email in the chat. I honestly invite each and every one of you to reach out to me. You can friend me on social media, Facebook at Sara Finger. I really, again, for my own mental health, I know that Sara Finger cannot fix this all. And if there's anything I can do to, again, help you navigate those advocacy waters or like being in the kitchen or whatever analogy you want to use, I really want to be a resource for you so that more of us can build that confidence and start again, really ensuring that policy is going to happen with us. And again, instead of what it's been doing, it's been happening to us for far too long. And AAUW, I was at the US Capitol getting ready to meet with some legislators, and I was in the cafeteria, and all of a sudden I see these women walk in with their AAUW pins and like all their swag. And I said, oh, I'm an AAUW member. What are you doing here? And they're from Baltimore. And they said once a week, they descend upon the nation's capital and take turns going into different offices, talking about some of the priorities you talked about, Mary, like in the beginning of what the agenda is for AAUW. And that's just, it's so powerful to see people who can, and I recognize there are barriers to being civically engaged, but between AAUW as a resource, our organization and others, we're here to support you and help you through this marathon so that we come out at the end smiling somehow and satisfied with the progress we've made.
Sarah, thank you so much. Your enthusiasm is very contagious, I might say. And of course, your work in advocacy, I really enjoyed how you kind of divided up the various seasons. You got the election season, and then of course you have the budget season, and then you have the legislative season. So it was very informative, and I'm really, really glad that you have a pulse on things. Marge Williams, our public policy person, she too is very, very dialed in. So I'm sure she was enjoying some of your comments. So thank you very, very much. And Pat, thank you for securing tonight's speaker. I have one correction. Earlier, I believe I misstated our April meeting. It is going to be Jenny Finn, but she is the executive director of the YWCA, and she is going to talk on racism and white privilege. I believe I misspoke and mentioned that she was an author. She might be, but that's not her topic. Her topic for the April meeting, which will be very, very relevant for all of us, is on racism and white privilege. So, I'm going to turn the agenda back to Linda Pellew. We have a special membership drawing, but before I do that, I noticed on the people attending tonight, and by the way, we were up to 55 people that were attending tonight's branch meeting, very impressive. But June Mobley, she was celebrated earlier, the 50 years, and I noticed that she's attending tonight. So Carol, I hate to put you on the spot, but Carol Sturgis, would you just mind spotlighting Carol just for a second and just give us a big old wave? Oh, Carol! We're so glad that you're here. Can you just give a little wave to all of us? You're spotlighted now.
Are you talking to June, Mary?
I apologize to June. Thank you, June. Thank you. Congratulations, 50 years. That is an awesome. We're so happy. We're so happy for you tonight and celebrating you and your longevity with our organization.
Thank you.
All right. So now may we go back to Linda, and we have a special drawing for tonight.
Back?
Linda, yeah, for our drawing.
This is the March meeting. And during the March meeting, can you all hear me? Am I on?
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Okay.
When you're on.
Guys, you're still doing pretty good with new membership. That's what I can say. The February count for AAUW West Suburban Milwaukee is lower than usual, but hey, this is a pandemic, so we can't complain about that. We had 8 new members that joined during the Smart Shape the Future events. So because we had 8 new members, we get 3 free memberships. So what I do is anybody who has brought a member forth and the member joined, and we had a couple members who joined not through Shape the Future, but I have their sponsors in here too. And I'm going to pull the names of 3 wonderful women who sponsored 3 new members. And if your name is called, you will have a free national membership this year, which means you only have to pay state and local dues. So as I shake up, please notice it's the Queen Cup, what I drink my coffee in. We are all queens in our own way. So I will draw the first one. And the first free membership goes to Terry Mitchell.
Yay.
Terry.
Jerry, okay. Jerry has sponsored so many new members. One year she had like her name in here more than one time, and she hasn't yet won it. Jerry, this is the year for you, honey. The second one is, let's see, Mitzi Dearborn.
Yay, and she's not here.
Okay. And then the third one is, as I pull it out, let's see, they're all, and this one is Mary Ho. You sponsored a new member. Mary's here, isn't she?
Yay. I don't know if she's here.
She was.
Was she?
Woo-hoo. Okay, there we go, ladies. You'll hear from us. You don't have to pay national dues. Congratulations, and see, renew and recruit, ladies. We need to renew our membership, but please remember to recruit, because that's how we grow and get new blood and new ideas into our organization. And you know, soon we'll be out of this this dark time. We'll be together again. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Linda. Appreciate that. All right, so that concludes our monthly meeting. Those of you that would like, you can go into breakout rooms for continued conversation and just fellowship and engagement, or you can leave the meeting, of course. And of course, remember all of the wonderful events that we have coming up in the coming weeks